We've talked about Cleopatra the Seventh, also known just as Cleopatra in popular media, several times in this class. I actually debated on doing this movie as my first media review, but dismissed it since I didn't feel that there was enough there. However, after reading more of the articles, watching more of the videos, and reading some of my classmates' packback posts, I've had a change of heart. The 1999 version of Cleopatra was a made-for-TV miniseries based on the book Memoirs of Cleopatra by Margaret George. I've long been fascinated by Cleopatra ever since I read the Dear America series' Royal Diaries, Cleopatra the Seventh, Daughter of the Nile. While Dear America and Royal Diaries books are historical fiction, written as if they're journals of young girls, most are about age 10 to 14 throughout history, they have sections at the end where they talk about the historical events of the time or give an actual history of the person. It's in this book that I first came by the idea that Cleopatra may not have looked historically Egyptian or Middle Eastern, but may have had lighter coloring as a Greek would have. It didn't matter to me then, and it doesn't matter to me now what she looked like, but it's caused quite a controversy elsewhere. According to Dr. Rebecca Futo Kennedy, a majority of the people who are holding on to this idea of Cleopatra as white or Greek looking are trying to turn history to their own needs so that they can tell people that they're wrong. It really breaks down into modern race issues and prejudices, since as we've learned in this class, skin color was not a problem in antiquity as it is today. In one of our articles written by Fariha Mulvey, which talked about Gal Gadot getting cast as Cleopatra, I mentioned that a woman of color had never portrayed the ancient queen. As you see in the cover of the film, this isn't quite true. I'm not quite sure why they put Lenore Varela in that brown wig for the cover. It's always something that's bothered me. In the movie, she has much more natural looking black hair. It was very interesting to me that the writer of the article only commented on Elizabeth Taylor and Vivian Leigh versions and didn't reference this version. I have a feeling a large part of that was the fact that this movie was a made-for-TV miniseries versus a large Hollywood blockbuster film. While Lenore Varela is a woman of color, she is not of Middle Eastern or Egyptian descent. According to her IMDb page, she's of Chilean descent, with her family moving to Costa Rica and eventually settling in Germany. This once again goes to Hollywood trying to typecast people into roles. Many actors and actresses who identify as persons of color, no matter their background, can pass as many different ethnicities and races. In my Alexander review, we saw Rosario Dawson playing Roxanne, who is the wife of Alexander that he marries while on his campaign. Ms. Dawson was born in New York, New York, and is playing a woman from Bactria, which was in Central Asia and north of India. The film Cleopatra actually uses lighter-skinned people of color for the Ptolemy family. And many of the close servants and friends of the Ptolemy family are also lighter-skinned persons of color. You only see darker-skinned persons of color relegated to the roles of enslaved persons, such as the female body servant of Cleopatra, the slaves that are rowing the boats, the slaves that do hard labor, and Cleopatra's bodyguards. The lay people of Egypt are also pictured as lighter-skinned persons of color. All the Romans portrayed in the film, including Julius Caesar, played by Timothy Dalton, shown here on the left, and Mark Antony, played by Billy Zane, are all white. The thing I remember liking most about the film, and it's something I still very much enjoy about it today, is that the film allows Cleopatra to hold her own as queen. She's not content to sit aside and let Caesar or Antony lead, and she wants to rule with them, and is shown several times strategizing with Caesar and Cleopatra and Antony regarding military campaigns. Even the infamous death scene where she allows herself to be bitten by an asp is due to the fact that she's not willing to bow as an enslaved person to Octavius, or as she says, the might of Rome. She chooses instead to meet her loved ones in the realm of the gods. One interesting thing to me, and it's something I intend to do more research on, is that Cleopatra throughout the film calls herself the daughter of Isis and seems to really believe that she's born of a goddess. Well, I'm not sure if that's historically factual that she went around calling herself that, since some of the literature we've read on her shows that we don't know exactly who her mother was. It could have been possible that at the time it was also not common knowledge who her mother was, and that she adopted the idea of Isis as her mother to help fill in the blanks. While historical information in this film is not awful, although they leave out a lot of Cleopatra and Antony's later life in it, it is a very entertaining film. It does show a good amount of different ethnicity, and it is one of the first films of Cleopatra, and I believe the only one to date that used a woman of color in the role of Cleopatra. Rotten Tomatoes does not have a critic score on it since it wasn't a theater based film, but the audience gave it a 67%. I watched the film originally when it came out as a two-part series on ABC, and I believe I remember being highly entertained. Watching it again for this review, I was a little bit less entertained since I know more of her history now, and it's a 3 hour long movie, but it's still a decent film. If you're interested in ancient Egypt and the Queen of the Nile, I'd recommend giving it a watch, keeping in mind, of course, that you need to take the historical accuracy with a grain of salt.